Hi everyone, I'm Apshi.
I'm Azizo.
I'm Sunita.
I'm Sean.
And welcome to the Woke Up Show. The Woke Up Show is a podcast with a rotating panel where we talk about lots of different topics, big and small, serious and silly, in order to get more woke.
Okay.
Alright, so today we have our Malaysian family with us here today. I think we all look really cute in our traditional clothes. Obviously, I am in my Indian clothes. We just thought it'd be fun to do something a bit festive for Merdeka. And we're going to be talking about what it means to us to be Malaysian. And we're all Malaysian here. We are all different races, have different experiences. And I thought it would be kind of fun to discuss what it means, especially during this really trying time. So maybe you guys can introduce yourselves and then we can just talk a little bit about all the stuff that's been going on in this past week. Azizul, you want to go first?
Sure. I'm Azizul. I'm a creative strategist for like a little agency. Wow, where do we start when it comes to all the news that we've been getting, huh?
Azizul, so wait, where are you from? Have you grown up in Malaysia your whole life?
Yeah, I'm Malaysian, born and bred. To be more specific, I'm from Sarawak. I was raised until I was like 8 or 7-ish around there. Then I moved all the way up to KL Selangor here. And
Nice.
I've been here since.
Nice. What about you, Sunita?
Hi, I'm Sunita. I'm 27. I've lived here my whole life as well. Born here. What else is there? I am an illustrator and copywriter.
Nice.
Freelance.
Nice.
No sleep.
I don't think any of us can sleep with this whole
Yeah.
work from home or work forever. That's what they should call it.
Yeah. Work from home plus the news means no sleep forever.
Facts. What about you, Sean?
I'm Sean. I'm 23 this year. Actually, just turned 23 last week. And
Oh, happy birthday.
Happy belated
Yeah.
birthday.
Happy belated birthday.
born
We
and
all
bred here.
sing? Will we embarrass you if we all sing?
Yeah, I think you guys
I'm
would.
kidding.
Yeah, born and bred here, and yeah, didn't expect my birthday week to have such a great news, to end with.
Yeah,
Yeah.
truly.
Yeah,
True.
so. Oh yeah, and I work in a social media agency. Yeah.
Nice. So I think we all kind of work online pretty much. You guys know I'm Apshi, 25, and I spent most of my life here in Malaysia, but I lived in Canada for 2 years. I lived in Australia for a little while I was 10, up until I was just before I turned 13 that I moved back to Malaysia. But I'm a Malaysian girl, pretty much true and true. So yeah, what did you guys think? This past week has been really, really eventful, from the vigil that turned a bit crazy to the announcement of a new prime minister. How have you guys been feeling about it all? Stressed?
Stress.
It's really
Disappointed.
Disappointed?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that a lot of us were probably feeling like, we had the doctor strike, we had the MPs protest, and we had the Lawan protest, and there was supposed to be a protest this last weekend, but it got cancelled. There was a lot of the citizens kind of putting forth what they wanted. And technically, like, the resignation of the former prime minister was one of the things they wanted. But, a new government is what we were seeking. We didn't just want like a musical chairs shuffle of, okay, this person now is our prime minister. I think we all know who it is. What do you guys think of that? Like, do you know anybody who was in support of this person? Are you guys in support of it? We're down for different views for sure, but yeah.
Amazing guy.
Oh. And, I can definitely say that I'm definitely not in favor for this dude, nor the current government, nor the past government. But like, unfortunately, this is where we feel where democracy is a bit powerless, where we can only vote once in a
democracy
week.
doesn't exist in our country in this moment, in my opinion, because democracy is the will of the people. Democracy comes from votes, and it comes from what the people want. And the person that is currently in power I don't even think this person, any of us have ever heard of him pretty much or voted for him. that, in my opinion, if we had gone in the, like, at least if we had reverted back to democracy, we would have gone with Anwar. Not to say that he's perfect. I don't think that any of these leaders are perfect, but it would have been the will of democracy, which would have been refreshing after the past year and a half.
You said it, girl. I guess one thing that we kind of do is every 5 years we do get to vote. We do have some democracy, but there's an illusion to say that whatever we voted would actually be something that would last, and we clearly didn't see it lasting with the previous government that we voted in.
Yep.
In shambles, right?
Yeah, I think that was the biggest heartbreak that as Malaysians we all probably felt, because I think that was 2018, right? The elections. I remember feeling really proud, telling all my friends, like my friends from overseas, like, look at us, look what we did, all that good stuff. And then the fact that all of this happened in tandem with the pandemic, it's like almost we were unable to process anything, that nothing really like registered in our mind. Like, I knew, obviously we all know we had a new PM last year in March, but it didn't kind of enter my brain as much as, oh my God, we're in a pandemic. Is that what you guys were feeling too?
I guess I'm pretty confused on what's going on, because like I didn't know you can do such thing as like backdoor governments, jumping parties and stuff. It was all new to me. So yeah, I was quite caught on surprise. I was like, okay, so are we good now? While the pandemic is going on.
Yeah, because we're so focused on like reconciling with losing, people who have lost family members, friends, losing, days of our lives sitting at home. We have so many things that we like mentally have to kind of like, all right, like let me wrap my head around this, like that it was almost difficult for at least me personally to kind of like be able to understand the situation with the government, because I'm focused on dealing with the personal implications of COVID. Yeah, that's like just something that I've been like thinking about lately, is how the timing, it was hand in hand. It started, everything changed for us in March 2020. And now I guess things are slowly starting to get better, and things have changed again, but I don't know whether it's for the better or not. I don't know. I don't think we can really say. Yeah. But what did you guys think about what happened at the vigil? That was really scary.
That was nonsense.
It was appalling.
It was not necessary, honestly. Like, to me, I feel like they could have done it better. I mean, the authorities, like, they are not even protesting or anything. Or if they are, there wasn't any like, how to say, big, like they won't go any big. They were just holding a visual. I don't understand why the police have to be so forceful in a way. Yeah. So I feel like it's really unnecessary.
Yeah, and I think one thing that was like interesting to see in those videos is that the people were just asking like, am I getting arrested? If I'm getting arrested, okay, but don't just ask me to go and sit in this like scary black van and not tell me what's happening. I think that's what people were saying, right?
Yeah. I mean, imagine that you go there for a vigil, and out of nowhere you get pulled up into a Black Maria for what? And from the statements that we've heard and from the people that we know, they didn't even know why they were put in anyway.
Yeah.
And they were probably holed up for a few hours until some clarity of the situation to them. Must be horrible.
And exactly. They were not being told what they did, which at the end of it, I think was violating SOPs in terms of the COVID situation, which it's hard for me to, I guess, like get it, because like if we can go and dine in, what's the difference? This is open air. There was probably like less people crammed together than in a restaurant. And I get that, even though it wasn't a protest, it obviously did have political undertones. I don't think we can deny that. But I think it was done in a way that was probably the only way that would have been possible to do it peacefully. They were just lighting candles. I think they were singing. Like, seemed actually very sweet and sad. And
I think in essence of it, it's not a political thing. Like, to have a vigil, you're literally just acknowledging that lives were lost. But I do believe that the police interference makes it political.
Yeah,
so
that's very true.
It's, because what were they doing? They were just honoring the dead. So is this our government's way of acknowledging that these deaths are entirely political? Is it, I think it sends a really strong message on their part, more than on the, people who organized organized it and attended it in the first place. And I think also one of my friends put on Twitter that I think really summed up the ridiculousness of the situation was that there was probably more compliance with SOP during the vigil than there was in throwing all of them into a Black Maria together.
Yeah, facts.
Like there was absolutely no social distancing in there. So if anything, there was more of a violation by the police than the people actually protesting, or not even protesting, just attending a vigil.
Yeah.
Like lighting candles. Since when was that a political thing?
That's true. That's extremely true. Even when I saw that, that was the thought that occurred to me. And so I was like, wait, these people are tight. They're like not sitting far apart. They're tight in this van. And I'm sure even in the police station, like how many, I'm not going to speak for things that I don't know, but I'm just going to guess that it wasn't that, that it's not that huge that 20 people can sit with like, big distance between them and all of that. Yeah. It's been a tough week. And with Merdeka coming up around the corner, that just makes this, I feel like, a very complicated time for a lot of us Malaysians. And I guess this kind of brings us to the topic, which is, what does it mean to be Malaysian? And obviously all of us have like different experiences. We're different races, we're different ethnicities, but we're all Malaysian. And this is a thing that I always think of, is that like, we've kind of been fed this narrative since we were kids that Malaysia is a multicultural country with 3 races. We've got Malay, we got Chinese, we got Indian. And we are taught that these are 3 different people and we have to embrace. But why aren't we taught that we're all just Malaysian?
That's a pretty loaded question, to be fair. I think to get that one step of not looking at what your race is, it's systematic here. Like even we have to fill up forms to write what kind of race we are. And I've noticed living abroad for a while, this is not a thing. And
no.
Yeah, and I think that says a lot to how we self-identify with our races first, and then our like nationality or what brings us together.
Yeah.
And I feel because I was also born in Sarawak on that side of the pond, it seems like this side is quite sensitive about it. Over in Sarawak, we're quite relaxed and pretty chilled about it. We didn't really go into like the provocation that we see here. It's very intense here, and I've been trying my best for my whole life trying to understand it. And I just believe that the identity is so rooted in who you are internally, like physically first, before you can transcend to that next level of saying that I am Malaysian. Although, for the record, I am thoroughly Malaysian first, then what my race is.
Yeah.
So, to me, it's just semantics, man.
It is semantics at the end of the day, but it's this narrative that is perpetuated constantly. I mean, to this day, we hear the politicians say Indian, Malay, Chinese, Indian, Malay, Chinese. Why not say Malaysian? What's the difference? Actually, what's the difference? We have our cultural differences. Maybe we eat different food. We have different celebrations. But if you ask any Malaysian, they have celebrated Chinese New Year, Deepavali, Hari Raya, and Christmas. We celebrate it all every year, and we're more than happy to go to each other's house and eat the good food. So we are all everything, pretty much, in my opinion. But we are still taught this. What do you think of it, Sunny?
I think it's very outdated. I think, maybe it was relevant like a few generations ago, but I think, with time, obviously we have like different races marrying each other. We have people who have lived, been here longer, like many more generations, and, and the world is changing, all over the world. You see like there's less homogeneity.
Yeah.
Am I using that word right? Thank you. But I feel like, here we're definitely just not keeping up. I mean, obviously there are systems in place to keep that, like this focus on race in play in this country. But I feel like why recently, not even recently, but like it's now coming, I feel like, to more of a peak is, all this, like, there's more of a push against it, and think is because it's just becoming less relevant. Like, I think this generation, especially, and the one, after this, is like, we're moving past it quite fast. And it's, like the world and the system that we live in is not keeping up with it. So we're kind of forced to backtrack and, think about ourselves in terms of like race, gender, sexuality, all those kind of things, these labels. And I think, across all those things, I've noticed that, like, with time, those don't really matter anymore. They only serve to, like, they kind of hold us back, actually, in the long term, I feel. But, as long as our country insists on making us tick those boxes all the damn time, then, it's obviously something that we got to think about. We got to confront that in ourselves.
Yeah, definitely. What about you, Sean?
Well, I think to be honest, I really think it has gotten better in a way. I think last time you won't be so like aware of how segregated the race is, but with a newer generation coming out, people are voicing out like, why is Malaysia so segregated? I think you guys can agree with me. I'm not sure, but it's mostly because of political tool, using race as a political tool. Yeah. So people, like, you can see the newer generations right now, they don't really agree on to that. So you can see there are change coming in, but it's just not that impactful right now because it's still processing. I believe that it's still processing, and somehow in some years we'll get there where Malaysian will live in a more harmonious country.
Because one thing
No, I was just going to say, I think that's feasible if we see the age of our politicians sort of come down a little bit. Because we're sitting here with like a 30, 40, sometimes 60-year age gap, between, us and the people who are supposed to be like representing us, making decisions for us.
Yeah.
So
60 years, that's true.
Me and, Mr. Mahathir over there got 70 years apart.
70 years.
Like
we different.
I don't think we see things the same way, sir.
I think one thing that I always thought of in Malaysia was that amongst the people, at least my personal experience, is that race wasn't such a thing that was discussed, or like, people wouldn't be like, I don't want to be friends with you because you're Indian. Like that's not something I've heard. Maybe I'm privileged to not have ever heard that in my life, but it was a narrative that I felt was perpetuated by, the systems of our country, that you see it everywhere, but you don't see it in practice. You don't see it amongst your friends, your peers, in work, this and that. You don't see it as much. Maybe you feel it a little bit, but not the way it's like there's Indian, Chinese, Malay. It's like as if that we live in like a different states and worlds and parts of town when we all pretty much just coexist all the time. Another thing I wanted to ask you guys is, so, over the years, we all like kind of, have different ways to mediate our, what's the word I'm looking for? The way we see ourselves, our perception of ourselves, how we identify. For me, I would say when I was younger, up until the age of 10, I lived in Malaysia. So I would always say I'm Indian. But the minute I moved overseas, I would say I'm Malaysian. Even when I was in university, people would be like, where are you from? What are you, Abshi? I'm like, oh, I'm Malaysian. Like, I wouldn't say I'm Indian because I'm not from India. I'm from Malaysia. That's my ethnicity. There's nothing wrong with being from, India or wherever. And it's not that I don't feel Indian. I mean, I am, but I'm Malaysian. That's what I am. And how do you guys feel that, like, your relationship with being Malaysian and this nationality that you hold has sort of changed, over the years as you've aged, or maybe as you've traveled, or as you lived overseas, or as you've met different people? Like, how has that evolved for you?
I think it has always been the same for me. Like, being Malaysian, just being Malaysian. Like, people ask where you're from or where are you, I just say I'm Chinese from Malaysia, and it just comes out naturally without any thought process or anything. Yeah, that's for me.
It's always kind of been that you felt that my identity is Malaysian.
Yeah, like, I don't know. There's nothing shame about it besides
No.
what happened recently.
Yeah.
Kind of.
Yeah.
It's an interesting thing as well to me, because like I think it's very contextual when we start to learn about it. Like you said, example, like when you're in Malaysia, you would say I am this race. It's like you need to actively segregate yourself when you're in Malaysia, because when you're in Malaysia saying that you're Malaysian, it doesn't really count. It's strange.
Yeah.
Only when you go abroad, and then that's where you have to clarify everyone that I am Malaysian. Full stop. Or
Full stop.
For what Sean said, example, like you have to say that I'm Chinese from Malaysia. It's like, I wish we didn't need to do that. We just have to say that we're Malaysian, you know. But
Yeah.
it seems like we have precognitively figured out that we have to kind of do it, which is kind of unfortunate.
Yeah.
Throughout my life when I was growing up, like the idea of Malay and Malaysian has always been reasonably unison, because unfortunately, like in Malaysia, it's like Malay people are like the unfortunate poster kid, or fortunate, depends on how you look at it. It seems like we look at our population rates as well. Like Malays are first. So when people here say Malaysian, automatically it's probably a Malay dude. But the longer I grow and the older I become, it's that I really can't wait to just drop this Malay ideal of it. Like, sure, Bumiputra, right? That doesn't help me. I have no money to buy a house, so that doesn't help me.
Yeah.
But like, it's this really weird identity that people really strongly uphold against to. Like, and that's not even touching about the religious side of being a Malay person as well. That's like a whole other can of worms that I'm not really willing to touch. But
it's a very sensitive topic to talk about, I think, in our country. Like, it's not something people feel okay to talk about openly because of how it's been, put out there. It's taboo, talk about it quietly. You talk about it amongst the same, like, people who are the same religion as you. Then maybe you can speak a bit more openly, but not quite.
Yeah, it's strange. And from the guy who's wearing a badge of Melayu as you speak, it's a really weird area to be in. Because I definitely feel like if we want to portray Malaysia better in the future, we have to be looking at each other as Malaysians first. And this is where I feel the conversation is slowly moving towards it. And we definitely see it in the younger folk, like how Sean was talking about, and Sunita as well. Like, just get rid of the old people. Like, we don't need it.
Yeah. And the thing is with the older people governing our country, it's like, you're not really going to see what you've done kind of play out. If you're already 60, 70 years old, we are going to face the consequences of your actions, and our voices are not represented, especially in this sense, because we do not really believe in segregating the races. We like the idea of, let's treat us all as Malaysians. But no, I don't think that everybody shares this value, though. I think we are the liberal bubble.
We are.
I have
just the four of us. The four of us are the whole liberal bubble.
Wait, I have a question. Okay, I actually am not, I'm not sure. Basically, I'm not so on the board of calling us all Malaysian in a way. I asked this question before, like someone asked me as well. Is it better to be called as Malaysian for whatever race you are? Like, would that kind of destroy what's unique about Malaysia, having different cultures and different dances, different foods? Like, I think that's part of what makes Malaysia special, having different races. But again, it kind of conflicts to how to be harmonious in a way. So
I think, can I just weigh in on that a little bit? I know, because I was literally thinking that same thing, when, actually, when you were talking about like calling all of us Malaysian, And I completely understand that sentiment, because it's like right now race comes first and then Malaysian. But it's like changing that to, you're Malaysian first, but that doesn't deny your culture, like that, because that is, like definitely what makes Malaysia special is that you got like, all those cultures from East Malaysia, you got like all this like, Peranakan culture, you got like Nyonya, all of this like amazing roots that, like come from all these different, and it started, with different races. But I think as we, like if you really want to unify everyone, I think, you need to start looking more at like culture versus race.
Mm-mm. Yeah.
Because it is changing, like, think of people who, like intermarried households who, you have Chinese culture, you have Indian culture in the same household, for example. And it's like the children growing up with that culture, that is uniquely their culture. But, then, you have to confine them saying you're Chinese and you're Indian. So you have two separate cultures. Yeah. That's not what's happening for them. They have one culture, and it's a Chinese Indian culture that is uniquely Malaysian. So it's not, I guess, like trying to homogenize, like make everyone the same, like assimilate to one, this is the one Malaysian archetype kind of thing, but more of like, you are Malaysian because you have this unique culture that coexists perfectly with all the other ones.
I completely understand what you guys are saying, because I saw somebody talking today about how, did you guys see Beyonce's like picture on Instagram with the Tiffany diamond? It's like this super expensive stone that only like 3 people have worn in the world, something like that. And I saw a few people commenting about how on the Tiffany & Co page, they put that Beyonce was the first black woman to wear it. And they were like, why do you have to say that it's a black woman? Why can't you say it's just a woman? Or it's just, it's just, why can't you just, why are you bringing race into it? But you have to bring race into this. It's important to say that this is a black person that's wearing this necklace, because it means so much because of the culture of it all. And I think that can, when we bring it back to Malaysia, it's like, when I say I'm Indian, I don't want to deny the fact that, when I say that I'm Malaysian, I don't want to deny everything that comes with being Indian in Malaysia, because that is my unique experience, but being Indian is very different than being Malay. That your experience in the country is completely different, but you are still Malaysian. And I like what you guys said, because it's like, we don't deny this culture. We somehow we need to mediate it, that when we say Malaysian, we are not taking away from the race, because that's not what we're trying to do. It's very important to still acknowledge and understand that, Indians and Chinese are second-class citizens in this country. That's just a fact, and we cannot deny that by saying, okay, Malaysian, because that's a nice way to sort of be like, okay, fine, everybody Malaysian. We put aside all this oppression that has happened over the years, or, even like what you're saying, Chindians, like that, not having a place, like you don't feel Indian, you don't feel Chinese, like that's also a special experience that culture shouldn't be taken away. But how do we do that? How do we say we're Malaysian, but I'm also this culture? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I just kind of feel like I went all over the place. I even stopped by Beyonce.
Love it. The queen has to be in the top. So
exactly. Aziza, you know what's up. She's the queen.
Yeah, that's interesting to think about in terms of. I definitely agree. We're not just blanketing the word Malaysian, but how do you keep the culture instead of homogenizing to say that we're like a one cookie cutter of Malaysia?
Yeah,
because that's not real. That's true, because we all have like different pieces of the cookie that we have experienced or not experienced, and the second class.
Sorry guys, one second. What is that sound? Do you guys hear that? It's like a car. Oh, it's.
I think it's my side. I'm so sorry.
It's okay. It's okay.
Yeah.
Go on, Azizo.
I definitely do agree with that second-class citizen mentality and understanding. We can only blame the leaders of the past and the current leaders for upholding the current situation.
Yeah.
It's not that great. It's not really helping anyway. And strangely enough, like the statistics have already shown from the NEP from before that it doesn't really even help the main Malays anyway. Like Malays still are having the highest level of poverty and the most equality. compared to most of the races, unfortunately. And
Yeah.
we are also here to believe that Malaysia is for Malays first. And that's where my ideal of I want to drop this whole Malay race from my identity to try to understand, because to move forward on, if I want to find a much more better country for myself, I better find a better country for the people around me as well. And that doesn't really matter what kind of race or what kind of culture that will be in. But this is also one problem where the more modern we become, the more we look at traditional things and we're like, we don't need it. Like, for example, like the olden ways of thinking.
Yep.
And the question is like, how far are we willing to go for modernity to the point where we actually forego as much traditional as we could? And culture sometimes is quite tight knit to that. And like the way how we were brought up and how this country is might unfortunately be down to a lot of culture that was carried forth behind from it.
Yeah.
You know, it's a heavy cookie, but
Yeah,
it's a
it
cookie
is.
that we gotta bite and figure out.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like, how do we maintain our main identity being our nationality while also staying true to our culture and our ethnicity? That, I think, is a lifetime of learning and unlearning to kind of really, really get it. I don't think we're going to figure it out at 25, 26, 27, like whatever age we are. We're not going to kind of get it now, but like we can start. And I think it's refreshing, Azizul, to hear somebody who is Malay actually say that, I kind of want to like drop that identity to, make this country better and all that, because I feel like that's something that you don't often hear from the majority in this country. Not to say all of them. I know I'm not trying to generalize by any means, but like I do see that, like, it's nice to have privilege. You know what I mean? At the end of the day, that's why people who are privileged still have it. But systematic privilege is, I don't think it's often legislated. In Malaysia, the privilege is in the legislature. Which
I think Aziz has something that the leaders don't: empathy.
The thing about politics, man, sometimes you don't need empathy, and that's the horrible part about politicians.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That and
But I
inflated
also-
salaries.
Oh, stacks of it.
stacks on stacks.
Yeah, I can say for a reasonable amount of my Malay friends, like, we do have some of this sentiment, maybe not as strong as mine, but like we do have this borderline where we're trying to walk through, where like, for some of them, do we focus on making like a better Malaysia for everyone, or like do we make a better Malaysia? Fortunately, it's weird, and I think to add on to that, I definitely believe being Sarawakian makes a whole different perspective when it comes to this kind of information, because we don't really register ourselves as like Malay, or like we don't say that I'm Malay. So we usually say that I'm Sarawakian, I'm from this part of town, I eat Malay food, I do Malay things, but that doesn't necessarily mean that I would like to call myself Malay only,
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I guess that's
think
like
that played a part.
an interesting experience that you have, is that like, yeah, you're like technically like Malay, but you're Sarawakian. So that's like, an added layer. It's like the intersections of, all the things that build up our identity. But in a sense, it also makes you a minority, because you are not like West Malaysian Malay. That is like the majority. And so just as generally as minorities in this country, most of us here, how do you guys mitigate that feeling? Like, I know that I often feel like a second-class citizen. I don't feel it day to day, but if I think about it a little bit deeper, it bothers me. It's like my grandparents were here before independence. That means we were here before Malaysia was, before Malaysia happened. So aren't we the people of Malaysia because we were here before independence, before the country was formed? So those things, they don't sit right in my mind, because how can my family have been here for generations upon generations on both my parents' side, and I'm still not, like, some people still perceive my existence here in Malaysia as a foreigner living here and should be grateful for being allowed to be in this country. You know? But what about you guys? Sunny?
Yeah, I would say that it's been a very long and complicated sort of inner conversation trying to figure that out. Because, so for context, I am half Chinese, Malaysian, and half British, English, and on my mom's side. And so here, Chinese side, I am technically a minority, but how obviously I've been perceived here in Malaysia has been more as a European person. So, you know, like, yes, on the one side, like, you know, I am half, you know, a minority, like from a minority race, but at the same time, the way I'm treated here comes with a lot of privilege because of how people in this country treat white people in general. So it's been weird, and I generally, but this is the thing, is that like in terms of race, I feel like it's not something that I think about until I'm confronted with it. And obviously, like living in Malaysia, being, you know, a European looking person, in a very homogenous country, like, you know, this country, they see Malaysian, Chinese, Indian. I don't fit into any of those boxes, and therefore people have a hard time understanding that I am also Malaysian. So in this kind, you know, like walking around and everything, people would see me not, you know, as not being from here, and also treating me differently.
Sunny, what's crazy is like Sunny and I have been friends for so many years, but Sunny speaks better Malay. I feel like she can be sometimes even more Malaysian than me, who is perceived as so much more Malaysian just because I'm Indian. And just because you appear European or white or whatever to other people, and then you hear her speak Malay, and then you hear me speak Malay, and they're just like, wait, what? Huh?
I think the best moment in my life was when we had a delivery guy come and he was trying to speak to Apshi in Malay, and she just told him to talk to me, and the look on his face, he was just like, why?
But that's the thing. It's like your experience doesn't match your culture.
No, exactly. And I mean, like my name as well, like I'm Sunita, so there's nothing in my name that indicates who, you know, this. So I've had like Grab drivers drive past me and things. Like it's a weird world to live in, but it's definitely shaped a lot of like how I've had to confront the conversation of race in Malaysia. Like I think for a long time I felt like I couldn't really be part of the conversation because, you know, living here, like a lot of people define me more by my Europeanness. You know, I was always the white girl in school, you know, like people would always, even members of my own family who were present at my birth in KL will say things like, oh, this is my niece from England, you know, and I'm like, okay. So, you know, I grew up being like, I don't know where I'm from, you know, I'm like, I'm from here, I'm from there, I'm from either place, whatever, to whoever, I'll be whatever. You know, so to my English family, I was always that like exotic little Asian, you know, child. To my, you know, Chinese family, I'm like the white girl. So it's, you know, for a long time, I was like, I think I will just sit out of this conversation. You know, like, I think that's easier. But obviously as time goes by and I'm becoming, you know, like as I get older, obviously I feel more connected to living here. I feel more like, I care a lot more about what goes on in this country and like my place in it. So it's, but I definitely do feel like I particularly identify as being Malaysian first, because I don't really see myself as being Chinese and I don't see myself as being English at all. So in that sense, I think that's, you know, I have parts of my life that are like Chinese culture and English culture and whatever, but I do see myself as Malaysian first. And that's also really confusing because actually like that realization does not fit anywhere in this country. That does not fit, you know, like I still have to take Chinese on the forms, you know, so
Yeah, because the
having that-
conversation, in Malaysia is that if
Yeah, it's
I didn't know
completely different.
if I didn't know you, I was like, oh, where are you from? Oh, I'm Malaysian. I'll be like, what? What do you mean?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I'm sure that's what you get all the time.
Yeah,
But
exactly.
you are
And
Malaysian.
so to me, it feels simple, like I don't question it, but I think like obviously the way that race has been framed in this country, it's like, it's weird, basically. So weird.
What about you,
Yeah.
Sean?
Oh, wait, you're asking about how I
No,
feel
I mean, we went all around,
Yeah.
but like
Yeah.
the question is like, as a minority and, feeling like oftentimes like a second class citizen, how do you deal with those feelings? Do you feel that way yourself?
I think I'm just like you. I would say that I'm kind of privileged to not feel those kind of second citizen feeling, because I was provided, my parents are financially stable and everything. But when you grow up, you started to learn more and stuff. And I'm a pretty empathetic person, so I always put myself in other people's shoes. You kind of see other people's point of view. Like I would often like see how a person who's under the B40, how would they struggle to, for example, get education, get sponsors or anything like that. And it just sucks because of how you were born, like what race you were born, and you can't get that. Yeah, and I feel like that's really unequal, which really hurts me. And yeah, for me, I don't feel it, but when I try to empathize with other people, it hits a lot. Yeah.
Definitely.
One more thing. No, Sunita, I thought you were Indian, not gonna lie, because of your name.
I'll take it.
To create more ambiguity.
I think most people think she's Chindian with Sunita, so. But I do agree with what you say though. I think when you have privilege of any so especially financial privilege in Malaysia, is that you're kind of shielded from these feelings. Because I don't think I really understood race all that. I think my parents, so they did kind of they also shielded me. I didn't look at race. I didn't think about race. I didn't see people for, I just saw people if they were nice or if they were not nice. But I think only once I kind of went to college and I was a bit older and I could understand, you dive deeper into what does it mean to be my race? What does it mean to exist in my body, in my country? That I think I could, it really made me feel some type of way. Because, like I said earlier, I feel Malaysian, but I don't think I'm always Indians or Chinese or just non-Malays are always given that space to be able to feel as Malaysian as people who are Malay. Is that I'm Malaysian, but I'm not a person of this land. Bumi Putra, like that's what it means. And that feeling, it's like, it's really hard. It's hard for me to feel, okay, because I love Malaysia. I want to live in Malaysia. I am Malaysian, all of those things. But my country keeps kind of being like, not quite.
Yeah.
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 I feel like that's a tough one. And, in terms of like no.
I think because when you were talking about like being shielded from it, I think it's to do with how much you rely on the government. I feel like the more you rely on the government, the more your race really does come into play. When you're relying on these like social structures and things like that, because they're very heavily segregated by race, like scholarships and things like that. Like,
yeah.
The more I think help like public help that you need, then the more it's really going to come into play. Because I think what has shielded us as well is that a lot of us have been to like these private institutions where as long as you can pay the fees, you're in.
Yeah, that's true.
So I think that that's all.
Yeah. So, and it's also, I think, in the one thing that's unique about our country is that that we have, what is it called? Affirmative action that lasts forever. You know what I mean? That's technically what Bumi Putra rights is affirmative action. And when you look into affirmative action, it's to help people who are disadvantaged for X amount of time until equality is achieved.
Yeah.
But if affirmative action is forever, isn't that like institutionalized privilege? You know what I mean? Doesn't it just like...
That's exactly what you said. Actually, it's exactly what happened. And Tunku Abdul Rahman, to be fair on his part, he was supposed to take it out. But it seems like the UMNO party took him out first. So that's the unfortunate situation. What we see, can't do much about it.
Yeah, I mean, it's the situation at hand.
I mean, the NEP is supposed to be like reviewed every 10 years or something, right? And then it's like, so there's this like goals to meet, and if they're not met, then it just gets renewed, and that's just what's been happening. But it's fun because I like, you know, I love that the logic that's being used at the moment is that, oh, we haven't achieved it, so we need to keep it going, rather than we haven't achieved it. Maybe it doesn't work, you know?
Maybe shit doesn't work.
Yeah.
But, you know, like that logic would just be not fun for anyone. So.
Yeah, I think those rights tend to benefit the most privileged people more than anybody else.
Yeah, exactly. Like, for example, one of the Bumiputra rights that I have is the 5% discount on a house. But when you really look at it, like how many of the Bumiputra people or Malay people in this matter can actually afford a house outright? And we can clearly see that, and only the Malay elites can afford these things. The thing about the NEP that is going to stay for a long time, it's based on the fact that how much Malay people are in poverty line or even worse than that. And to keep the NEP, there's a twisted
it's a vicious cycle.
Yeah, because it keeps a lot of people in the poverty line and under for the reason why it should exist. And it's going to be here for a really long time until we get like a huge political will to change it.
I mean, things have to significantly change, I think, for that to be overturned. And I always wondered, like, you know, maybe this is a naive thought, but I always wondered, like, if the majority population Malays are the ones that are highly impoverished, why don't we make these, you know, we change it, not Bumiputra anymore, we make it something else, but similar rights, but for those below poverty line and below, across the board, any race. And if the majority is Malays, then they're the ones who will still receive. Nothing will really change. But obviously, maybe I think it's naive for me to say, because that's not what's happening. That's not the point of it at the core.
Yeah, I mean, I also support the idea where we take out the race and we actually put in class-based understandings on how to do policy, because it seems like over time, the class divide is much more important to tackle, to figure out how to make a better society. But as we see, and as Sean has did said early on, this is a political tool, unfortunately, and that's just how Malaysia rolls.
All right, so another thing I wanted to ask you guys, which is a big question, because, you know, Merdeka, just around the corner. We have today we're filming this on Tuesday, 24th. Got about a week. How are you guys feeling about the state of our country?
Deathly silence.
All right. Before Friday. So sorry. Sorry.
Oh, no.
Before Friday, my Malaysian flag was all colored with, you know, blue, yellow, red. But like right after Friday, it all turned black and white.
That's rough, man. Yeah. I understand that feeling. I can do the Sarawakian thing where I just put down the Jalo Gemilang, I just put the Sarawakian flag up top.
Oh man, you're lucky.
Yeah. But to be fair, Apshi, on the side note, when it comes to like Merdeka, independence and whatnot, I'm gonna pull out the Sarawakian card again. I'm just gonna say that like only in 1963 we were Malaysia. Before this, 1957, like we were Malaya. I'm straight up. So for me, I've always looked at this day as like a bit of a question mark, as in like I'm happy that like independence from the Brits. Sure, that's a plus point. We inherit a lot of things from the Brits. I'm not sure if that was a plus point, but
sorry.
when Malaysia Day was recognized as a real public holiday, and that's kind of funny because Najib did it, but he did it in the sense of trying to unite Malaysia a bit better. On East Malaysia, we kind of felt like, yeah, now it kind of makes more sense because we were celebrating a day that we didn't really do anything about it. And it still holds true for me today. It's just a day that we mark independence. It's a day for us to look inwards to understand what makes Malaysia Malaysian for all of us and how we all fit in the huge narrative. But seriously, for the past 6 to 7 years, I just wake up in the morning, I turn on TV3, maybe watch the parade happen for like 10 minutes, get bored, go on my day.
I think state of the nation, not good. State of the nation aside, always proud to be Malaysian, always happy to celebrate. But I think that's a really good point that you said, Azizul. You said we are not like celebrating Malaysia as we know it. We're celebrating the independence from the British, which is not, nobody really teaches you that. Nobody makes that apparently clear because we celebrate this day so much more than we celebrate Malaysia Day. This is the big celebration. This is the millions of dollars in fireworks and this and that. But obviously with that in mind, I still love this country. I still love Malaysia. I still have hope. I mean, we said in the Lawan episode a couple weeks ago, is that we love our country. That's why we do all of this, why we talk, why we protest, all of that. Like, I think that it will take a lot for me to not love this country anymore because I think it's beautiful, it's wonderful, the best food in the world, amazing people, and it's home. At the end of the day, Malaysia is home, and I feel like that feeling of feeling at home here, despite everything, despite all the political nonsense, this and that, it's still, it's hard to feel like happy about it, but it's also like, I do love it here, but also no, but it's hard. Yeah. What about you, Sunny?
I don't know. I feel again always a complicated feeling around like feeling like Merdeka, Malaysian, all that kind of stuff. I mean, I think growing up, I always saw it as more of like a fun day where you just get to wave a flag around. I didn't really know what it was.
Yeah.
And I think as I get older, obviously the significance of it's not grown or anything. It's just always stayed as that day again. I think, honestly, personally, I think I find more meaning in Malaysia Day than I do in Merdeka because I don't know. I just feel like weird celebrating a day that does not include East Malaysia. It's like making, because it just doesn't make sense. Why do we have to when Malaysia is what we're celebrating? So
yeah, we're celebrating the whole country.
Yeah, so I mean, I think I appreciate the feeling of it more than the actual like day itself. Like Malaysia feeling.
Yeah, I think it's the feeling that's nice. The fireworks, you eat some nasi lemak, roti canai, you just kind of feel the vibes. And then
and then the next day it's like, all right, back to it.
enjoy the public holiday.
Enjoy the long weekend if you get one. That's all you get.
Yeah. I feel like I think this conversation we have right now would be very different if we were having it in 2018. Because I think that year we were feeling real good.
That year was the best year to celebrate Merdeka, honestly. I don't know about you guys. So I was so happy. Like, honestly. Yeah. But it just keeps hitting you, 2019, 2020, 2021.
Oh, 2020.
Yeah, dude.
No, 2021 is worse than 2020.
2020 was the warm-up.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair.
Yeah.
It's like I already like got beat up, have my black eye, and then again 2021 is like ready to fight. I'm like, no, I give up.
Hanging out like
Yeah, I'm like, Oh no, I thought it was 2019 when it's still 2019 in my brain.
Yeah, I'm still
Exactly.
23, guys. I'm still 23. I have not aged up.
Like one of my friends from Melbourne also like he heard the news that 2018 was like basically the opposition won. He was so
Yeah.
happy. He said that he was going to wrap a flag around his apartment and stand in front. He was in Melbourne, so he was gonna sing the national anthem, something like that. He was that happy.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
I,
mean,
I
I think,
remember crying.
yeah, it
Like,
was.
it's just crying.
I just remember, like, I was going to work and that feeling, there was that feeling in the air that you can't describe it. There's just this, like, everybody's kind of looking at each other like, shit, we did it,
Shit.
Not anymore, but
I mean,
Yeah, definitely not anymore. Yeah. Yeah.
but do you
No,
have
it felt like a moment of change. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, it did feel like a very
Yeah.
significant moment. And
Yeah.
I think that, we don't have to look at it as something that happened once that will never happen again just because we're here right now. But do you guys have hope?
still a bit disillusioned for now. But honestly, I feel like I feel a lot of hope when I look at like the younger generation that we have now, like people that turned up to the Lawan protest as well, like people who organized it. I feel like that is great energy, and I feel like that is about the only thing that gives me some hope these days. But apart from that, I think still got a long way to go.
Yep.
Sean, do you have hope?
I'm not so sure, but I can weigh in on how Sunita felt. I feel really appreciated for the people, especially the one who went for Lava and all that stuff. The younger generations who are fighting for us. It feels like they're giving us hope. Like it does, and I feel a lot of I really appreciate it. But it's just like I don't know. It's like playing my heart, like getting my heart broken again and up and up and up.
Yeah.
And yeah, I wouldn't say like I
We've been
don't
in a
have hope.
toxic relationship.
Yeah.
Oh, this
Yeah.
is so toxic, man.
Azizu,
Yeah, so I can't do.
you got hope?
To just feel what we all felt in 2018 is enough for me to hope for more. If just because we already had it once, like you said, just because we had it once, that doesn't mean we can't have it again. And it is the hope that I know that the vast majority of the Malaysian people have the wits and understanding to know what can be better, and to have the political will to make it better. I think that's internal in all of us as you speak. As much as the bad news comes out to beat us down with the negativity, but we all know it can be better. And having that first step in believing that you can, it means a lot to start to make it better. And that's my hope. I will constantly have it no matter what. As horrible as the situation can be, whether on ground, whether in politics, or unfortunately in the poorer parts of town, there is a way to make it better because we had it, and we should. No questions asked.
Yeah.
But
I
it's
feel the
feasible.
Yeah. I feel that obviously I am jaded at times. It's hard not to be. But like you guys said, like you, Sunny and Sean, like you guys said about the younger generation, like they're so cool. They give me so much hope. They're willing to do so much. They're less afraid than us. They're more vocal than us. And I don't think we're that afraid, but they are even less afraid than us. And I think that that's amazing. And if anything, like if we only get to be, have our voices heard when we're 40 or 50, at least we'll be 40 and 50-year-olds with this view. At least we know in the next 30 years, the people in power will hopefully be people who share the views that we do. And I think no matter what, I will never stop having hope for Malaysia because Malaysia will always be my home. I will always try to find my way back here because this is my country, and I remember, I don't know if I've said this on the podcast before, but I took a class in uni about humanitarian aid. And they were talking in this one video we watched, this guy was talking about how a lot of like people will go to other countries. Like, they'll go to a impoverished country in Africa or in the Middle East, or white people who come to Southeast Asia, things like that. Like, we're always seeking to go out when our country is not finished. It's not solved. It's not perfect yet. It's not done. And that I remember to this day, because I feel like at that moment something just like clicked, and I was like, oh shit, why am I like, I was determined. Yes, I'm gonna sign up for what is that thing called? I can't remember what it's called, but where you go to like one of those countries, you spend a couple of years and you do aid.
Mission.
Like, yeah, I was 18, I was had all these ideas, but I was so sure that that's what I wanted to do. And when I heard that, I was like, oh yeah, I'm not gonna do that. I'm gonna go home, because this is my home, and I want to work on it. I want to make it better for as long as I can. And obviously I have my limits, and we all might be pushed to our limits and leave, but I hope it never comes to that, because this will always be home. And I don't think, as jaded as we all can feel, I think we all hold hope that we can live here forever, and this will be a country that we will see become what it was, what we hoped it would be in 2018. So yeah. I mean, I don't have any more questions, but if you guys have anything you want to add for our very festive, very cheery Merdeka episode.
Yeah, this Merdeka has more of the mood of a funeral. Like a little, everyone's a little like morbid. But I completely agree with you. Like, I think it's going to take a lot to push me out of here, because, like, this is home. This is it, like, there's no replacing this. Like, come on. How are you going to, like, Singapore is the closest we got. I'm sorry, Singapore. But I mean, like, I'm not going there.
Hell nah.
No.
That's one thing we can all agree on as Malaysians.
Yeah, that's what unites us. That and badminton.
Yeah, that's true. That's so true right now. Yeah, why not we just have like a whole Merdeka team of just like, like throwing crap at Singapore. I would still follow that.
Just an episode.
Throwing things at
our second Merdeka episode, talk shit about Singapore.
Yeah, talk shit.
This talk show's gonna be cancelled.
By Singaporeans, please. I'm so sorry. I love you all. I'm being horrible right now.
So sorry again.
It's just, give us this. Let us have this. We don't have much right now.
Something so funny is that one of my friends, he grew up in Singapore, and he was telling me how like Singaporean children are thought that like Malaysia is full of like murderers and rapists. It's just like this scary place. At the minute you like cross the border, you have to like hide everything. And I was like, oh, really? We are thought that Singapore just sucks. Like, that's it.
Yeah, just in general.
Yeah, man.
Like, you can't chew gum.
Yeah.
You can chew gum.
So on that note, we love Malaysia. We don't have many nice things to say about Singapore.
We just let us have this to unite us.
Let us have our
in
hatred.
this moment.
But nonetheless,
they already had their National Day.
Yeah. We're kidding. This is all fun. Just being cheeky. But thank you guys so much. And to all of you guys watching, I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. I hope maybe some of the things we said resonated with you guys and how you're feeling about our country at this time. We know it's complicated. We know it's difficult. It's hard not to feel jaded. It's hard not to feel sad. But let's try and keep the faith and keep hope that, we'll soon see a country that will be even more proud, to be part of. And on that note, please guys, like, share, comment, subscribe, follow, all the good stuff. And thank you guys so much for having this conversation with me. And stay safe and stay woke, y'all. Bye!